Hi there, my name's Nunn. I've been very fortunate to have been the project coordinator for the Oceania Paralympic Committee for the last few years. And we're at the Australian Institute of Sport today, which is where I pretty much learnt my trade as a coach. I was employed for 13 years to oversee the development of the first scholarship program for athletes with disabilities in the world. And then took over the able-bodied athletics program. So I was very fortunate to have worked with some of the best sports scientists, the best coaches and the best athletes within Australia. And as a result, our successes in Sydney for the 2000 Paralympics we went to #1 in the world, and it was a result of much of the work that we did here at the AIS. As an athlete, I was a bit of an anomaly. I'm built like a middle distance runner, but I love competition. So I actually took up the decathlon and had a goal to represent Australia. The decathlon's 10 of the track and field events, and I loved it. I was out there for 2 days competing against the best athletes around. My goal was always to make an Australian team. I wish someone had told me or sat me down when I was a young athlete and said, once you've made the team, what next? Because that was my goal and I achieved my goal. I'm a much better coach because I didn't reach the standard of athlete that I was probably capable of doing. So for me now, when I get an athlete reaches a certain level, there's always that what's next question, because I want them to continue their journey. I was really fortunate to be exposed to Paralympic athletes early on in my career, and then I chose that career pathway of taking on and developing the first program, which was here at the AIS. We were able to attract really good athletes, take them on and show that with good training, like any other athlete, they could perform with the best in the world. So I fell into coaching, and I've always had an expectation of, if you turn up with the right attitude, I will give you 100%. So come to me as an athlete, I will treat you like an athlete. If you come to me as someone with an impairment or a disability, you're in the wrong space. I'm in the coaching space and I'm in the sports space. You might have a leg missing, you might have a vision impairment, you might have cerebral palsy. That's just part of who you are. I'm interested in you, the athlete, and the potential that you have as an athlete. And that is the message we drive right throughout the Pacific. We want athletes first and foremost. So if we look at the broader picture of why we're doing what we're doing in the island, it's not just about sport. We are changing people's perception of people with impairment. I know in some of the islands, principals of high schools and primary schools can say yes or no to children with disability turning up for education. With the profiles and the performances of the athletes, we are increasing the profile of people with impairment and raising acceptance of them as community members instead of being misfits. So it's really important that the bigger picture we're doing out there is much more than sport. This is about changing people's lives forever. For me, elite sport is about realising people's potential. We see potential everywhere, athletic talent, coaching talent, and it's the job of people like myself in the roles that I play to be able to identify and develop that talent. So I need a skill set where I can identify the talent and then put in place a program that will ensure that we have early success, which will encourage people to continue to grow and develop, whether they be an athlete or a coach. Regarding coaching, there's 2 elements to it. If you go to an able-bodied coach who's never had an experience with an athlete with an impairment, invariably, if I took them someone who had cerebral palsy, for example, they would respond and say, well, I don't know anything about cerebral palsy. And my response is, well, if I wanted to know about cerebral palsy, I would go to a cerebral palsy association. You're a coach, I've come to you for your coaching expertise. So overcoming that barrier of the unknown to say, we want your sports coaching skills. So for example, if I've got athletes that I want to fast track, I put them with the best coaches. I will identify the coaches in their event that can get the results. They treat them like athletes, they expect elite performance from them at training, because that carries then onto the competition environment. So it's imperative that we have good coaches working with the right athletes. That will fast track the athletes. So in terms of Tokyo this year with our Oceania team, I am really excited that we're going to have a group of athletes and coaches turn up who look like coaches, perform like coaches, and as a result, their athletes will have the expectations and respect of other countries. They will see them as athletes. And I'm being totally truthful in saying that some of the athletes that have represented Oceania in the past have been names on a paper. Yes, you've got this impairment, you can go. We will have athletes turning up to Tokyo. There is no question in my mind. So we can be very proud of the work we've done, very proud of the governance that we've got in place in many of the countries, and very proud of the efforts put in by the athletes and coaches. They will turn up ready to compete. They will not just participate, they will compete to the best of their ability, and that'll be the biggest difference between these games and what I've seen previously in Rio and London by Oceania athletes. So it's a good time for Oceania, and it'll give us a great chance to showcase what training and opportunities can give for the community as well as these athletes.